Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This big show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Scavengers Reign, Season 1, Episode 7. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we get an answer to who it was that heard Ozzy's distress call. And what I thought was interesting is when you look at their responses where it's like, oh yeah, it sounds like there's kind of like a distress call coming from here. Like someone's asking for help. It's like, yeah, sure, someone else. They were kind of like blasé about it. But then their tune changed the moment they found out it's a Demeter ship. And they're like, all right, come on, let's go. And so we get introduced to our three new characters. Was it Chris, Terrence, and Barry? Whose name, obviously, I thought was so interesting, and now in retrospect, I was like, oh, it sounds just like her, is Chris is voiced by Pollyanna. I'm going to probably butcher this. I want to say Macintosh, but it's like there's no A, so it might be Macintosh, but she's Jadis from The Walking Dead. I know in World Beyond, she went by a different name, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I definitely distinctly remember her as Jadis, but it's like, I had no idea that was her. I was like, that's pretty dope. And also found out she's a Scottish actress. I'm like, man, The Walking Dead's filled with so many European actors. Terrence is voiced by Freddie Rodriguez. I'm not sure what else I might know him from, but the thing I know him from is Bull. And the other one is Dash Williams, which I don't think I'm familiar with his work. Not from what I was able to glean from like a quick search. But like I said, their whole deal seemed so interesting because I was like, you don't seem like a rescue crew. You seem like scavengers yourself. And it turns out that seems to be their case of like, they are like helping other people. Like, I don't know if they're part of like a larger scavenger crew of like, because Terrence is like, yeah, like you're the one that's on about like, oh, like we find stuff here. We can actually help our people. Then I'm like, interesting. Because they're not here in the official capacity like the Demeter is. But even then, it's like, how much of an official capacity were they out here or just like this whole operation? Because based on what Chris says, we find out that this whole thing is company orientated, not necessarily government. I mean, it could still be. It could be like the government funds this operation, but it could be like it could be, I mean, it might not have any government. This could just be kind of like a SpaceX type of program where it's like independent from like where you have NASA, which is a government organization. You have something like SpaceX, which is, I don't know if it's considered a private company. I assume it is. So, but it's like, and she kind of made it seem like maybe it wasn't even, maybe this thing isn't just backed by one company. It's multiple companies that put their money in because they want to basically probably like gain a foothold out here in space and stuff like that. Like I said, it could be government funded. Like they could have gotten like some people, government officials backing them and stuff like that. But this could just be some rich companies and CEOs of companies deciding to go down the space exploration route, which obviously is a real thing in real life. You know, once again, like SpaceX and stuff. But that was really interesting because, like, I guess just in my head, I assumed this was all government funded. So, like, solely. Like, it never crossed my mind that this would be like a private companies type of situation. But that's kind of interesting. And once again, like, that Chris and her crew have, like, nothing to do with that. Well, Chris actually used to be a pilot. I don't know if, I don't know if Sam's technically the pilot. I think he's just the, I mean, he might technically be the pilot, but I thought he was kind of more, I mean, not unless he's pilot / captain. Like, we still don't officially know what, because I think this is the first time we've heard exactly what Ozzy's job position was. It's like she, like, basically handled a lot of the cargo stuff. That was, like, her main, like, position on, but we don't really, like, when we get an idea of, like, Ursula's kind of, like, the, she handled stuff on a more, like, maybe agricultural side of things, and then like we know that Cayman handled a more mechanical. Well, no, Fiona handled like some of the mechanical stuff, at least with the Levi's, but he was more on the engineering side as well. So that's about all we kind of got, but we don't got like the specific titling of everyone's jobs. Either way, I'm kind of going on this diatribe, but I just think it's so interesting, kind of getting that like insight into this whole operation to some extent. And like I said, they feel very much like Chris and her crew, like, they're not even like, not pirates, but like I said, they seem like they're scavenging and they're helping their own group. It's like, oh, we're not even from this sector, we're from like a sector over or something like that. So it's just interesting, like, just kind of getting a little bit more expansion in like the world building. But yeah, they only showed up here, like I said, because of what they wanted. They were like, when they actually run into Ozzy, it's like, okay, so we actually kind of tricked you into coming out. Like, we wanted Dash to come out. Like, if it's just one person at a time, like, to draw you out, then it'll seem a little less, like, weird. I mean, especially considering after, like, Ozzy's running with that creature that's with Cayman, or Cayman's inside of now. She's pretty banged up. So, when it's all said and done, it's like, hey, we can get you to like a nearby like port type of place. Cause she'd even said like the protocol is for like the pilot to jettison and kind of go to a place to kind of get some help, to call for help. So it was such a last minute situation that it was just, like I said, that makes me go like, is Sam technically not the pilot? Maybe the pilot did do that, or the pilot might be dead. Maybe the pilot did do that and died. But it's like, yeah, the protocol wasn't fully enacted, essentially. So that's why I'm like, it just could have just been the desperation of the situation that didn't happen, or it did happen, and said pilot is dead. Like I said, that all comes down to whether or not Sam's like considered the pilot or not. But while our new trio was away, that creature that Cayman's inside of ended up destroying the ship. Now, what I think is interesting, when we cut into like Cayman inside of this creature, obviously, once again, it's that empty, like, oh, like he's floating in space aesthetic. There is mechanical rubble, which I was like, not mechanical, well, mechanical pieces that I'm like, that's not from Levi, is it? I was like, this thing didn't eat Levi, or is that? But then I was like, no, it's parts of the Demeter. It's just, once again, him just like hit. I don't know if this thing is feeding off his emotions about his regrets about it, but why else did it roll up on the Demeter, not the Demeter, Chris's ship, and Chris and the team's ship, and like dismantle? I'm like, why would you do that? Like, I know you want to do stuff for the purposes of eating, but I'm like, are you feeding off of, because you are like feeding him, so maybe you're psychically connected to Cayman. I mean, you kind of already were, because you were like manipulating him by showing him Fiona and stuff, and like you're in his head. So I'm like, are you driven a little by his instincts, like his regrets about the Demeter, and you kind of replicated? Because why else would you do that? I guess, like, did you see it as like, oh, once again, you got rid of anything that could be a threat to you, and you saw this as a threat, that's something that could take Cayman away from you? I don't know what this, because it goes beyond just animalistic instinct. I mean, once again, we're on an alien planet, so we don't know like fully like how like a lot of these things work. But it's like, what is driving you? That wasn't just like, oh, I'm animalistic. I mean, like an animal could attack something that just seems so foreign and out of place of it, sure. But because it also coincides with like, yeah, it tore Levi apart, so it felt reminiscent of that as well. Then I'm like, I don't know what to make of it, because that seems so purposeful. That doesn't seem like that's just you running on instinct. I mean, maybe it is, but that just seems so weird that it just like destroy the ship. And I love when all of the four of them like return to the ship. You have Chris turning toward Ozzy. Now, I don't know if it's like, oh, you blame Ozzy because not only is she stuck here, now you're stuck here too, because your ship is gone and any supplies you had up there are gone. Whatever you didn't take with you is gone. So I don't know if Chris is blaming you. It's like, if it wasn't for your signal, it's like, yeah, but you don't like make it seem like it's all Ozzy. You came down of your own volition because you wanted to get something, and you took a chance and you lost in this regard. So I don't know. That look made me think that. Not unless she's suspecting that Ozzy might have set her up, but it's like, no, I'm stuck here too. Why would I want that? So I'm assuming it's the former where it's like you're kind of blaming her, but once again, the fault is your own because you made the decision to come down here. So, but it's also like, well, we wouldn't have come out down here if it wasn't for Ozzy. But once again, you were going to get something out of it too. So it's not like you were doing this out of the goodness of your heart. So that's an interesting side of things. Then we also catch up with Sam and Ursula, which seems like Sam is holding in there, and the lady, this older lady, is helping. So it also quickly debunks my thought was like, oh, could this woman have like been here? Is she part of like a larger tribe? Like, could it be a thing of there are people who've been living on this planet generationally? It's like, no, she seems to have crash landed here and just managed to survive. It seems like she's the only one that's alive because Ursula finds a photo of her and her squad, but they're all, it's an older photo because even she had to kind of wipe some dust off of it, I think. So who knows how long she's been here. I mean, most of the people in that picture look fairly young, so she's definitely been here for like decades. And so it seems like she's the last one standing. And I think it's interesting, like Ursula, like her takeaway from this, it's like, yeah, Sam wants to he's not taking things slow and realizing like, once again, she's coming at it from the agricultural standpoint of just like, oh my God, look at this planet. Like, there's so much we can learn from this. Like, there's such beauty here, but he doesn't want to take time. It's like, yeah, but there's too much on this planet that's unknown. It's like, I want to get out of here. I want to go back home. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, there's so much was lost on this trip that it's understandable, but she wants to be, oh, like, Sam doesn't realize you could take a beat. Like, I mean, look at you survived, but it's like, I mean, maybe, but we don't know this lady's circumstances because she does not speak at all. So, but she does help Ursula gather the materials. Like, once again, it's just like learning the mechanics of this planet, like how its plant life and how everything works. Because she gave Sam this little thing, kind of rubbed it on his wound, wound of his arm, which you even see his arm like decay. It's getting like. I thought the solution was going to be just to chop his arm off just to stop the infection from spreading any further. I guess at this point it's already spread to his body, so you got to treat the initial wound and symptoms, because even cutting it off probably won't be enough at this point in time, and probably don't have the materials needed to maybe patch up an amputation like that. But yeah, his arm looked rotted, especially because it changed to a completely different color, so... But yeah, like the whole mechanics of getting those sticks, stabbing them into those roots, and then like taking some kind of fruit and like rubbing it on it to kind of stimulate it, and then it opens up like an umbrella, then it electrifies like the tree, makes it drop this fruit, but it's like you don't want to touch it immediately. Or I thought initially I was like, are you supposed to not touch it at all? Because you want it to fall on the umbrellas first, and then I guess like when they initially fall, they release like maybe a gas. Maybe if you like breathe in too much of that gas, that could be like toxic for you for long periods of time of inhaling it. But they dragged them back, and just everything she did. I was like, once again, it's a whole bunch of trial and error to figure out how this. I mean, once again, we get out of anyone, we get that the most with Sam and Ursula figuring out some of the mechanics of this planet's wildlife. You don't really see that. Too much with Cayman side of things, maybe a little bit with Ozzy and Levi's, especially because Levi's connection and communication with the life forms of this planet. But she was able to help Sam, but then she like takes a needle, stabs it in his chest, and then like coughs up something because she starts like her stomach starts grumbling, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And she spits out like some kind of almost seed and then puts it underneath his skin of where she stabbed him with the needle. I'm like, what the hell is that? And Ursula wasn't there to see it, so I'm like, what? And like why was it inside of your body? Like, and it seemed like it's part of the healing process, maybe, but it seems like she's also suffering. Like either it's like something's keeping her going and keeping her alive. But then later on when Sam wakes up, he finds this creature manipulating her. It's not a one-to-one, but it almost feels similar to that creature and how it controls Cayman. But like this thing like operates differently. It's not like it isn't just solely mind control. Like I'm like, is this thing literally the only thing keeping her alive? Because the moment it tries to attack Sam, but the spot in his chest that she put the seed, and the moment the seed's there, it stops. So I'm like, maybe she gave Sam maybe she was just tired of living, or like, why would she, like, is that something her body naturally produces, or is it a byproduct of, hey, this thing basically planted its seed inside of me and now I'm passing it on to you because it's the only way to save you? Like, because if that's protecting Sam, why isn't it protecting her? Like, it's because it came from her body, so you'd assume maybe there's more. Did her body not, like, maybe that's the way her body reproduces it, is because of this thing. We have no idea. It's enough to scare the hell out of Sam and Ursula. It's like, yo, we got to get out of here. Love that Ursula ended up snatching some of her books beforehand, because it's like maybe, because she did kind of pick up one of her journals, so at least gives you a better understanding of everything. Because I'm sure like like what they're in is a ship. We don't get a full view of it, but we get enough of an outside view to be like, yeah, it does seem like it's a ship with some plant life kind of basically overgrown on top of it. So I have no idea what to fully make of that scene, because I'm like, that, like, I was like, what? Because she seemed normal up to that point, but I was like, does she go back to that creature for substance? Because the moment Sam pulled her from it, like her stomach or her chest started bleeding. So I'm like, did he interrupt the process? Is that how she survives? It's like this thing kind of much like the thing that's keeping Cayman alive. Like it nurtured her, and it just kind of, it's like a very symbiotic relationship of like, yeah, you let me feed on you, but I also keep you alive. And was she always just doing its bit? I don't know how to interpret that whole situation. Maybe next episode will give us some answers. I have no idea. I'm excited to see where all this ends up taking us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good